This week, we're going to do a portrait painting. Chose my grandniece, which may be questionable to you guys, but feel free to ask any questions if you like. My grandniece, Soule, who's growing up in New Orleans with her mom and dad. She's a great kid. She's about 3 years old, and I wanted to do a little celebratory portrait for them. So let's get into it. How I approach this kind of portrait process, and creating a sort of such a kind of illustration for a little person. So to begin with, as always, broad line drawing, working from the photo that I was given of her, figuring out the different areas. They're very standard, upper body, head, hair, the disposition of the hands. I think one of the interesting things about her is that she was really had her hands out and was looking at them. They're very before and after, before or after rather, some activity of some kind. She's very creative. She's constantly playing with things, and I think she's gotten messy with some paints. And so I went with that as the theme, and I built up from there. But I decided to really add some Art Nouveau elements, you might say. I sort of fine-lined, streamlined some parts of her. Her hair is great, and so I really turned it into its own creature. I decided to put her in like a little clown or gymnast costume. Kids like to wear costumes, and she definitely occupies that character, a bit of a joker and a bit of a clown, but I also didn't want it to be so standard, so you can see how I play with that idea as we move forward into it. But at this point, still finishing up a lot of the anatomy and the clarity and difference between different parts of the body. You can see that now I'm doing some clean blue outlining over the preliminary graphite drawing, you could say, digital graphite. Working on Procreate here. Finding some of the detailing in the clothing. You can see I created that sort of 3 triangle effect at her collar. And then just throwing a bunch of colors, some patterns that I developed on Procreate into her costume or into the background to just see how they look. At this point, I didn't really have a clear idea of where I wanted the portrait to go, just in terms of form. I knew that I wanted it to be playful and suggest that she's creative, but that's about as far as I had it. So here I'm playing a bit with the hair. I realized that while I was trying to get some of the variation in color in her hair, it was starting to look like highlights, which didn't quite work. And there I'm playing with the hands, making sure that they have that sort of used effect, like she's painting, she's finger painting with acrylics, or she's using charcoal, something like that. And I'm also identifying the atmospheric quality of her costume. So I haven't quite done the background yet, but I'm playing out, what is happening within and on her body to make her work 3-dimensionally and also to give me a sense of what I want to do for the background. So I went through a few phases of this. You can see I'm really cutting things back. I'm laying things on. I'm trying different textures. I am softening edges. I'm sharpening edges. I'm replaying colors. At this point, really not quite liking how the head is looking, but enjoying some of the shapes there. So you can see I just went with a really intense final set of sort of Photoshop layers, or in this case Procreate, photographic layers, to just change how all these things integrated. And I found that I like that, right? So there's kind of a darkness to it, a wildness to it, but also it isn't scary. It isn't creepy. So it could play out that character a little bit where, she can be complex. It's not just a sweet picture of a little girl. It makes her a little bit mischievous. It makes her a little bit magical. It makes her a little bit both old-fashioned and contemporary. And so that I found sort of fun enough to play with. And then at that point, I'm thinking, okay, maybe she's painting her name on the wall. She's got green paint on one hand and she's got black paint on the other. And that sort of finalized the idea, is that she is mischievous and line crossing a bit. So she's going to paint her name on the wall, but she's also very creative and is deciding to do it in a two-toned way that makes a complete composition. So that's it. That's how I found a way to present my niece, Soule, and they enjoyed the portrait. It was fun to do, and that brings it to the end. If you guys have any questions, if you have any comments or thoughts, please write them down below. You can follow me at Miles Lewis Art on Instagram. And of course, you can subscribe if you enjoy these videos. And we'll see you next time.